Okay, we're in the middle of a sugya. Just to reiterate Chazriba what we said yesterday. Rav Huna said, "Mizaka leuba like koina." You can't be mizaka for an embryo, a fetus. You can't be mizaka for a fetus. Said Rav Huna. They asked Rav Huna from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said the guy says if the child is born, it's a boy, it's 100. If it's a girl, it's 200. You see, you could be mizaka. You see, you could be mizaka. Said Rav Huna. I don't know who learned that Mishnah. That Mishnah Loishana was not learned. Said the Gemara. Now the Gemara is we're in the middle of the sugya of figuring out maybe we have a Tana who would learn that. So the first suggestion was Rabbi. Rabbi holds that a person could be makna davishla bala olam. So maybe also over here by Inuba you could be mizaka to the uba. And he said no way, because even like Rabbi you can be mizaka when it's something that will come in the world that's not in the world yet. That he agrees. We said according to Rabbi Yossi said a chiddush that if a woman's husband who's a kayin, she eats truma. If the husband dies and she's pregnant, she has a din of a zar. It would not only stop her from eating truma, it would stop the eved also from eating truma. So you see that the uber is Moirish, it inherits something. Or it's stopping the mother, it's stopping the eved from eating truma. It says the Gemara, Yerushim and Mela. In other words, Ashayla is not by Yerusha. Ashayla is you could be mizaka for an uber. That's where. So therefore it can't be Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara said maybe it's Rabbi Yossi ben Broika. But Rabbi Yochanan and Breika, what did Rabbi Yochanan and Breika say? That a person go ahead and pick out. In other words, I have a few sons, I can go ahead and give to one over the other since they're early Yarsha. Ostensibly, I can give to an Uber also. So what is Rav Huna saying that our Mishnah is not learned by anybody? Maybe our Mishnah would be Rabbi Yochanan and Breika. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan and Breika only says it's in the world, not when it's not in the world. And that's where we're holding, okay? We're trying to find the Tana of our Mishnah that would work out that you could be mizaka to an uber, because from our Mishnah it's mashma, you can give $100 to a boy and $200 to a girl. We're trying to figure that out to satisfy Rav Huna's question. Okay, so we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up from the bottom. Okay, on Kuf Mem Aleph on the base, and we're discussing maybe it's not the uber, maybe the Mishnah is going according to, I'll give $100 to the one who informs me that my wife had a baby boy. I'll give $200 if my wife informs me. So therefore, you want to know who learned that Mishnah? You're right. It's not speaking about the Uber at all. It's speaking about the person who's informing me. And therefore, Rabbi Huna would not be able to say, I don't know who the Tana of our Mishnah is, right? Let's say it's speaking the Misrani. Now, in our Mishnah, what did we say? That a tumtum, again, we had machlokes yesterday, between Abai and Rava, you can be doicha either way. But if the tumtum is the only game in town, he's yoirish hakol. Good. If it's speaking about the informant, where does Yerusha come in? Right. In other words, obviously, it must be speaking about the child itself being born, because we're saying if it's a tumtum, he inherits everything. If it's speaking about the person who's forming, it's not shaykh, he inherits everything. It's not right. It's speaking about the tumtum itself. So therefore, that teretz does not wash. You can't even suggest that our mission is according to the one who says Mibesrani. Okay, says the Gemara. Ella, Ihachi, if you're telling me that while it's speaking about the Mibesrani, Ihachi, the Tani Seif of our Mishnah, the Ein Shem Yoirish Elahu. If the tumtum is the only game in town, Yoirish Hakol, he inherits everything. Even Mibesrani, if it's speaking about the person who's forming him, Yoirish Maya Vidite. So obviously that doesn't work either. Another attempt. Maybe the $100 we'll give to the child, not when it's an uber. We'll give the $100 when it's born. We'll give the $200 to the girl when she's born. So therefore, it's not speaking about an uber, and therefore, Rav Huna, we have someone to explain our Mishnah that you said, Mishanu, I don't know who learned the Mishnah. I have a Tana who learned the Mishnah. Maybe the Mishnah is speaking when it's born. It's speaking when it's born. The Tani Sefer, when we learn the Sefer, anything that my wife gives birth to should take. Harizayitol, the tumtum takes. Kol sheteled, anytime she will give birth. Kol sheyoldami boile, anything she gave birth to. The lashon of the Mishnah is screaming out. It's speaking about an uber in the future. It's not speaking about past tense. So therefore, that can't be the time of the Mishnah. Maybe it says that this should be when the child is born. Okay, when the child is born. And if it's speaking when the child is born, therefore it would work out. Says Gemara, Rav Huna l'tamei. Rav Huna goes according to this reason. Rav Huna, even if when she's born, if you're not kaina when you're in the womb, you're not going to be kaina what when you're born. Okay, if you're not koina when you're in the womb, you can't be koina when you're born. Therefore, Rav Huna can't say the Mishnah is speaking about when it will be born. And the Mela Rav Huna says, I don't know who the Tan of the Mishnah is. Again, the final attempt. This final attempt that when you're going to say the Mishnah is according to what? When the 100 will be to him when he is born, or when she's born, the 200, it can't be, because Rav Huna says even there, since you can't be koina when you're in the womb, you can't be koina and outside either. Just the last Rashbam, the Rashbam, when it gets wide over here, the fourth line down, and you can't say our Mishnah is speaking when you'll be zeicha when you're born, and that l'tamei the Amar Rav Huna afham mizake leuber b'chiyai gavna. Even if a person is mizake, he's zeicha l'ad mishlei b'fanav in the uber in this form. When in other words, he's mizaicha for the uber when the uber will be born. The Amar l'chashetei leid kloimar nechasei lahai dema'abra, the nechasim of what you are pregnant with l'chashiyivaled, right? You should be what? Acquire like kana. You're not kana. That would be the case, guys. The labias. The uber that you are pregnant with you should be zeicha for when it's born, because you can't see. It says Rav Huna, it doesn't work, guys. Says Rav Huna, it doesn't work. Why not? Why doesn't it work? Says the Rashbam, the kivin the b'shas hakna ubuhu. Since at the time of the kinyan that it works, he's an uber. The ena yachal is zakos, and you're not able to be zeicha for the uber. Lo yikna l'chshivaled al yedei amira. The amal l'shechteiled. You won't be kaina when he's born through the mirror of the amira of what does not help. You're saying if you're being zeicha right now. If you're being zeicha right now, you can't. So you can't be zeicha right now, even though the lashon would be mashma in the future. It does not work. So therefore, again, there are people who might say you are. Rav Huna is not one of them. The male Rav Huna had a problem. He was no time. He couldn't figure out the mission according to anybody, because if an uba is not zeicha, you can't be zeicha for an uba, right? The uba can't be zeicha. You have to be zeicha for the uba, right? The uba is a non-entity. Says the Gemara. Okay, very geschmack. The Rav Huna, since the uba is not koina when it's in uba, it can't be koina even when it's born. The Amar of Nachman, hamizaka uba, when you mizaka the uba like kana. When you go ahead and when you do acquire it, if Rav Nachman says, fellas, that this uber, he can't be zeicha when he's an uber. But if you say be zeicha for the uber when it's born, he should be zeicha, then it does work. Rav Huna says, even when okay, how do we get into this sugya? Let's go back. Amid base, Kuf Aleph Amid base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 lines down. 9 lines down. Amar Rav Huna. Having Mizaka L'uba, Mizaka L'uba L'kana. Esvei Rav Nachman L'Rav Huna. Ask Rav Nachman to Rav Huna. Ha'omer im Yolda Ishti Zacha. Yitel Mana, he asks him Mishnah, correct? So who's asking the kasha, guys? No, who's asking? Rav Nachman's asking Rav Huna, right? Rav Nachman's asking Rav Huna. Now, it's Mashmi is asking him, what does Rav Nachman hold? Hamizaka l'uba is koina. Guys, when Rav Nachman's asking Rav Huna says you're not koina. Rav Nachman's saying you are koina. Masha Rav Nachman holds what? You are koina. Look at our Gemara now, what I just said. The Rav Nachman, 3 lines down. Hamizaka l'uba, like koina. Look right? However, if he says kana. Okay, look at Taisvis, guys. Kuf Mem Aleph Amid Beis. Second Taisvis down. Eser of Nachman Rav Huna Vim Taimar Ad the Paruch of Nachman Rav Huna Tikshi Leile Nafshe. But if Nachman's asking Rav Huna, he should ask on himself. This Leile come on Hamazaka L'uba Loi Kana. So how can you say Leikana? Our Mishnah says you can get $100 to the boy and $200 to the girl. Guys, in other words, you're asking Rav Huna, you yourself hold you're not Zoicha. You hold that's what you hold. Yishleimar, Davi Mukmi Masnis in the Chesheteled. The Sfila come on the Chesheteled Kana. Inami Rav Nachman Ayri Be'ubish Eina Benoi. Or Mukmi Masnis in Benoi, the Daita Shalad and Krayvetz. Okay, we're going to see the final teretz in a second. Okay, so we have a teretz. Back by us, 4 lines down, the chesheteled. However, if you say that you're Zoicha for the Uba now, for when it's born, you're Kaina. Rav Nachman says you're Kaina. So Rav Nachman, the Mishnah would not be fair according to Rav Nachman. He could set sign on Mishnah speaking the Chesed Halei. It's nice kasha in the guts of the sugya, guys. Right? It's a nice kasha in the guts of the sugya. Very good. I like when I say very good. You know, I give myself a pat. It's very good. Says the Gemara right there. Rav Sheshes Amar, Rav Sheshes said, Echad Zev, Echad Zeh Kaina. Whether you say the Ub is Zeicha, whether you say L'Chesed Halei, you're Kaina. So in other words, Rav Sheshes is of the opinion that what? That Uba is Kaina. Says the Gemara, Rav Sheshes, no Amin Allah. How do I know this? The Tanya. This is the Alam Gemara, guys. We know that a ger is nechasim if he has no children, it's free property, right? First come, first serve, right? It's hefka. What? When? No, not automatically. What? I know. So no, so you can be zoich in the property. You can be zoich in the property. Is ger shemes. So now a ger that dies. Ubizu Yisrael nechasav, and a bunch of Jews came along. Yisraelim came along, and they were mavazves, meaning they were kind of his property. Vishamu sheyesh lei ben, and then they heard that he had a son. Aishahaisa ishtay meuberes, or that his wife was pregnant. Chayavim lahachzer, they be chayiv to go ahead and return it. In other words, the Shitam Gebesa says in the Shem Rosh that to watch they'd have to watch. They'd have to watch it, right, until he's born. They'd have to wait. They watch it until the Ub is born, because once the Ub is born, it's his. So Yach says, no one who are you returning it to? There's no one to return it to. The ger is dead, right? So what do? You watch it and see if the Ub is born. You return it to the Ub. But what do you see? Right? You see the Ub is kaina. Look at Rashbam. Chayiv lahachzir. Even the ishtay muberes ubi yoirish have. The Ub is a yoirish. Alma hamizaka lo Ub kaina. Now you could answer Yorish Memela, right? We answered that already. That Yorish is different. The Gemara will answer that. That was the first teretz, guys, we spoke about. Rabbi Yossi said yesterday in the sugya that the pregnancy of the mother stops the avodim from eating truma because the uber is a zar, and therefore it would stop it. And we said Yerusha Shiny. You see that what his tfisa does do something backed by us. Hechsiru hakol v'yakach shamu shemes. They return it, and then they find out the guy Shemei Spinoy's son died. Now, hichzik b'shniya kana u'b'rishoyna loy kana. So it's the second act that makes the chazaka, the kinyan, and not the first. V'sakadaitach u'b'loy kana lama lahu achzuke b'shniya ha'achziku lahu chada zimna. Fellas, guys, outside. You go ahead. Here's an iPhone. This iPhone, it was owned by a guy, a ger died. I pick it up. 1 second, his wife is pregnant. Okay? So I gotta wait. I gotta wait. What? If his wife lives, I give it back. If his wife dies, and not his wife, if the Uber dies, I have to make a new kinyan. Now, why would I have to make a new kinyan? If an Ub is not kaina, then what I did before should be the kinyan. In other words, I made a kinyan. It's just a matter whether I have to give it to him or not. But you're telling me that if you're telling me that you have to make a second kinyan in order for me to acquire it, why do I have to make a second kinyan? It's hefker. It's mine already. It must be. When the Uber was in the womb, it was kaina. The mitzias, whether giving it to him depends upon his survival or not. But obviously, he must have acquired it. When it requires a second kinyan from me, it's mashma that the fact that he was there, he acquired it. That's how Rav Sheshes knows that Uber is kaina. That's how Rav Sheshes knows that an Uber is kaina, by the fact that I have to make a new kinyan. One more time. If you're going to say why do you have to go and make a second chazaka? I already made it the first time. Says the Gemara, the same teretz I gave. Amar Abaya, Yerusha B'Me'elah Hashayni. Why did we answer yesterday, guys? For Rabbi Yossi. Remember, the Yossi was pregnant with the wife of the kohen that died was pregnant with an uber, and we said that it stops the fact that it's considered a zar at that time. It stops her and the ever from eating truma. And what do we answer the Gemara? Yerusha and Mela. Yerusha, in other words, our shaila is being mizaka from an uber from another source. It's not speaking about where it comes from the father. When it comes to the father, b'taris Yerusha, that we have no shaila or nuba could be kaina. This is speaking about Yerusha from a father. He's a ger. He's able to go ahead and give it over to his son. So in Mela, it's not. You have no raya that an uber is kaina. You want Rav Shesha want to being a raya ubis kaina. It's the case of Yerusha. Yerusha is no raya. Just like it wasn't a raya by Rabbi Yossi, it's not a raya by what? By Rav Shesha, to Rav Sheshas. Rava Amar, Rava says, the MS what? An uber is not kaina at all. Even by Yerusha, it's not kaina. For shiny hasam, it's different over here. The rapui mirapion biyadayu meikara. When you made the kinyan, since you knew that the chances are that you're not going to go ahead and be koina, you weren't going medas. Your kinyan is nishkan gut the kinyan. The reason why you have to make a second kinyan is that your first one was shvach. Meaning, if I made my first kinyan with full knowledge, even though it was an uber, that would be a good kinyan. It would work. It would work. Over here, since I know that the woman's pregnant, so I maybe, it's like maybe yes, maybe no. So, rafia means like nishtahi and nishtaher. Says Rava, the reason why you have to make a second kinyan is not because the Uber required it. The reason you make a second kinyan because your first kinyan was weak, because you didn't really mean it's going to happen. Again, the Gemara's Rav Shesh's raya is you have to make a second kinyan. So it must be that what? It was at a time was out of Yerushus. Why was out of Yerushus? Because the Uber had it. And so we give two terutzim. Says Abai, it's Yerusha, it's different. Uber's kainam Yerusha. Says Rava, even Yerusha is not kainam. Even Yerusha, he doesn't buy that teretz of Yerusha kainam and Mela. Why? Why do I have to make a second kinyan? Because my first kinyan wasn't a kinyan. Why not? Because I thought there was a baby there. And therefore, I wasn't sure I was going to get it. Because once the baby's born, it goes to him. So therefore, my first kinyan wasn't a good kinyan. Good? That's the two terutzim. Abayi's teretz and Abayi's teretz of Yerusha and Rav's teretz of, again, they're both slugging up Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes wanted to bring a raya, that Ubis Koino, because he had to make a second kinyan. Both Abaya and Rava are slugging up Rav Sheshes. Abaya is saying it's Yerusha, and Rava is saying, of course, he's not Koino. But since my kinyan wasn't a good kinyan, Memela have to make a second one. Says the Gemara, Ikibinai, what's the difference between two of them? What's the working Ikibinai between them? Okay, guys, here's the Ikibinai outside. You heard that it died, then you found out it was alive, and then it died. But I made a kinyan, and I heard that what they had a son that was dead, or she miscarried. Good. Then came what? She didn't, and then she was out. So in, out, in. Right now, let's go. Light Rava. That is depends upon the kinyan. Since when I made the kinyan, I thought the child was dead. It's a good kinyan, right? Same as anything else. Like Abaya, that's telling Yerusha, once you find out the kid was alive again, so dead, Taki Yarish, alive, not. So therefore, you'd have to make a second kinyan. That's not Kamina between Abaya and Rava. That's the same. If you look at Rashbam, guys, Loshin Kitsari has a long Rashbam over here. When the Rashbam gets, before it gets wide, semi wide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines up. Lashon Kitsara at the end of the line. Lashon Kitsara ikabinayu sheshamu by shemesa uba. He heard that the uba died. V'yakach eksiku, and then he made his chazaka. So at that time, v'huloi meis. In fact, he hadn't died. Ella achakach he meis. Afterwards, he died. Uba acherim lahachsik, and other people now come to make a chazaka. L'rabba cheskasei rishoina leimirapia. The first chazaka wasn't weak. Shahari shamu shemes v'niskavnu lahachsik legamri, and the kavana was what? To make a total kinyan. V'koni the saif uba layatzel avar olam. So good. What happened? I made a full kinyan. The uba died, and then the uba was alive and then died. Bottom line is, it's hefka. But my kinyan was a great kinyan. Like Rava, you don't have to make a second kinyan, right? V'layarish midi Abaya acharoinim kana. Abaya, the second people will be kind of, you know why? Because as soon as the child was alive, right, it was Yairish, and therefore the second one's got it. You were finished. Your kinyan that you made earlier is finished as soon as you find out the child's alive. And maybe the second group will be kind of. That's nafkamina between the two, between Abaya and Rava. Very lumdish Gemara. let's see it inside. Rava Amashani Hasam de Rapuye Mirapya Biyadayu Meikara Meikara. They were weak in the beginning. My binayu. What's the difference between a Bai Rava? It could be nayu Sheshama by Shemes. You heard it. He died. He made a kinyan. Rava says great kinyan. V'lei Meis, but in fact it wasn't. V'yakach Meis, and other people came along with machzik. According to a Rava, the first guy gets it. According to Baya, the second one gets it. Toshma. Tinak ben yoim echad. A tinak that is what? Is a day old. Noichol, he can inherit. Umanchil, and he can bequeath. Ben yoim echad in ubeloi. Dafka ben yoim echad could be noichol. But but one that is a day is in the uber not. Kashan Rav Sheshes. You Rav Sheshes said an ub is kaina. How can you tell me an ub is kaina? Look over here. You have to be at least born. Yom echad, you have to be born. What? Noichol umanchol. Again, didn't Yerusha? Didn't he pidyon aben? Didn't you're alive. You are considered. In other words, if you're in this world, the Yival the law, you're in this world, you can be kind of. In Yerusha, that's the halacha. Le'inyan chiyos, there's halachas. Whether you kill a child, that's less than Gemara Baba Kama. It's a day that if you kill a child, less than that would be chayiv misa. Okay, anyway, but when a child comes to this world, it's a child, viable child. Now, ha'amar of sheishes noichel. So, guys, what's the kasha? You see that what an uben not only what a ben yoim echad, yes. On that the Gemara answers Rav Sheshes Rav Sheshes himself. Noichel b'nichsei aim lahanchil la'achen mina av. Okay, let's go through it. He's got an uba for himself would be kaina. Now he has a set of brothers from a different mother. He has a separate brother from a different mother, Reuven and Shimon, and he's coming from Leah, and he's coming what from Rachel. Now, as an uber, to be kind of Rachel's property, to be manchel to what to Reuven Shimon, he can't. To be kind of from his father, he could, but to be kind of and manchel to his brothers, he can't. So that's what he says over here. Says Rav Sheshes, Noichel b'nichsei aim, to be inherit the nechasim of his mother, who is not the mother of his brothers. Lahanchel la'achim min ha'av, to bequeath. That's the v'dafka ben yom echad. Aval ubeloi. Now you want to know the difference. Why by an uber himself he inherits? Why vis-a-vis his brothers does he not inherit? Right. On that the Gemara says the humayis bereisha. Guys, in order for him to inherit, what has to happen? His mother has to die. As an uber, guys, how's the only way as an uber from his father dies, he's an uber, he can inherit. For his mother, for him to inherit as an uber and his mother, that might be a little difficult, right? You know why? Because he's going to die first. If his mother dies, he's going to die first. Now we're going to get into very, 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 very bloggable stuff. This is very okay. So in other words, let's go through it. You're telling me Rav Sheshes and Rub is kaina. Good. He doesn't have to be a day old. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah actually, in Nida, guess what? He's got to be a day old in order to inherit. Said the Gemara, that's to inherit his mother, to go ahead and bequeath to. No. What's the difference? Why does he have to be born? Why can't he inherit as an uba? Because there's no mitzias of him inheriting as an uba. Because if his mother dies, he's going to be dead. The who mais beresha, he dies first. The eina ben yorish es imoy bekever, and a ben does not inherit his mother in the kever. We remember the Yesh Lechlin, right? If the brothers die, guys, let's go through it again. Man dies, leaves a son. Son dies but leaves a son. Now the father dies. The grandfather dies. Does the daughter get it, or does it stay right in the line of the son? It stays in the line of the son. Why? Because the sons that's bekeva, the sons that's in the keva is moirish to what? His son. So we're going to say the mother's bekevish is going to be that uber is going to be moirish bekeva. We don't say that. Ve'ena ben yorish es imoy bekeva lanchel la'achim min ha'av. Fred the Gemara, Remember the humais bereisha. You're saying that what he dies first. For havi uvda, there was a case upirkis tilse perkuse, and you saw that that he twitched 3 times, and then he died. So it's mashma he outlived his mother. Maybe it's like the tail of a lizard. When you cut off the tail of a lizard, right, it's dead. It's just the nerves that keeps on going. If you cut off the head of a snake, the snake is dead. But if it's a poisonous snake, don't go near it because it can bite you. That's the nerves acting. So it's Masha from Agamara. This is, we're going to tangentially go off a little bit, guys. So in other words, Rav Sheshes has answered the challenge. Let's stay with him, Baba Basra, and then we'll digress. Rav Sheshes has answered the challenge. You got a Mishnah that says that only a ben Yamechad inherits, not an Uba. Says the Gemara, no, an Uba does inherit. A ben has to be a day old in order to inherit its mother, but an Uba won't inherit its mother. Why not? Because the mother's going to die first, and an Uba cannot be Marish Bekeva. Now, you're telling me an Uba dies first. Is that always like that? Let's see Taisus. Let's see Taisus. The Humaisa Bereisha. Behind time Kedama Perakama de Erchin. The idea is Zutra Chiyusa, since it doesn't have such a life force yet. Ayla lei tipasa de malach hamaves. It says if a person dies, that malach hamaves with his sword drips some poison in him, and that's what kills a person. So now, since this uber does not have the same strength of life as the mother, when the malach hamaves comes, umischat cholei the simonim, the drop goes ahead and it cuts the simonim, it cuts the trachea and the esophagus, and therefore the child dies first. Good. So you have a kasha. How could you find a live? You're telling me now we're assuming that human beings are the same, animals and human beings are the same. So if you would shecht an animal and find a live animal, that would go ahead, Wada, and preclude your whole theory about a child not surviving. On that it says, Hainu dafka kisheshachta ay harga she'az hi mesa tchila. Then the mother dies first. In other words, when we say that the child dies first, that's only a natural death, fellas. If it's an unnatural death, if it's a murder, it's a riga, it's a shchita, then we don't say that the child dies first. Then we don't say that. Okay, go down a few lines to Vim Taimar. Vim Taimar, kivin de riga, aineka, lot says he. Maisa Bereisha, V'loyav Ladim Kain, Amai Nokid Ben Yamechad, Ubenami Noichel Umanchel. Guys, you can have a case of an Uba Noichel Umanchel, but go ahead, says the mother dies a natural death. In other words, you're telling me that the mother always dies first. You're telling me now that's only when it's a natural death. But it's possible, according to Rav Sheshes, that the Uber outlives the mother, so therefore, let's say the mother was killed in an unnatural way. So then the Uber would go ahead and live beyond the mother. If that's the case, then an Uber could be manchel, the nechasim of the mother. That's Taisus Kasha, based upon his premise. The Ishleimar, the Ben Yemechem is psikale. That's always across the board. In other words, you want to give a carte blanche statement. Can you always say an Uber is neichel manchel? No, it'd only be in the Metzias where the mother dies an unnatural death. But Ben Yemechad, no matter what, will go ahead and be manchels, right? In other words, when the Mishnah gives a statement, I call it a carte blanche statement across the board. So when you give a statement of Ben or Yomechad neichel manchel in any situation, good, you can find the case of an Uber being manchel, right? If the mother dies an unnatural death and it survives beyond that, but otherwise not. Okay, just a little side point. But the sugya right now, we're holding Rav Sheshes has fended off every challenge to his shita that an Uber can be zeicher. Good, very good. Again, I say very good. Amar Baravashi, we did that. Mar berei de Rav Yosef and Shmei de Rava Amar, a different teretz. He gives a pasha to teretz. He gives a very, very pasha to teretz. Why our Mishnah can be not a problem. Rav Huna shouldn't have a problem. A very, very, very pasha, a very pasha to teretz. What's the pasha to teretz? In the name of Rava, an Uba is able to outlast the mother. He can die after the mother. And he can be mirish to his children. And loymar shemimayit bechelik b'chayra. In other words, you want to go ahead and say that this din that the uber can't be manchel. You know why the uber can't be manchel? Is because why? Is because it cannot live the mother, and therefore it can be manchel bekever. Says Rava, an uber could survive beyond the mother, and he could be Meirish to his paternal brothers. And when the Mishnah says over there that only beyond the echad, loymar shememayit bechelika b'chayra. That in other words, to be mayit in the chelika b'chayra, you have to be born. Okay, guys, outside. We had this before, fellas. You have guys outside. You have two brothers. You have two brothers, right? And the father dies and leaves what? Leaves over $12,000. I mean $12. Good. You're going to take that, divide it into three parts, and the Bechor is going to take Pishnayim, is going to get 8, and the Pasha will get 4. Good. If there be a third brother, you have to divide it into 4 parts, and then you get 6, 3, and 3. Let's say you have an Uber. Is an Uber going to make it to the division of 6, 3, and 3, or it's going to remain what? 8 and 4. That's what it means. Uber, not to be ben yom echad, noichel manchil means le'inyan. It's not memayif from the chelik b'chayra. An Uber will not go ahead and diminish the chelik of the b'chayra. It's going to be an 8-4, not a 6-3-3. It's going to be 8-4. He's not considered a brother to go ahead and be mayit in the chelik of the b'chayra. Let's see it inside. Ma'abreid Rav Yosef Mishmei de Rava Amar Loimar shememayit b'chelik b'char. Since he is born for one day, he's a mayit in the chelik b'chayra, but an Uber not. But after ben yom echad, ava Uber loy. My timer, it says v'yoldoloi losses pishnayim. It says the pasuk kisel ish shtei nashim achas ahuva v'achas snua v'yoldoloi bonim ahuva snua, and v'yoldoloi means it has to be born. So an Ub is not born yet. Aval Ubaloi. My timer v'yoldoloi. Rachmana dama maber avashi mishmei ben shenoilad la'achamis avi, a ben that's born after the death of his father. It's not memayit b'chelik b'chayr. My time of yol duloi rachmana v'halek, and he's not in this world. Besura masnahachi. In surah, this is the way we just learned the sugya, that it's speaking about he's not ma'alik in the chelik of the b'chayra. But pumbedisa masnahachi. In pumbedisa we learned the following. Amamar b'reider Rav Yosef mishmei de Rava b'chor shenoiled la'achamisas aviv, a b'chor that's born after the death of the father. Ein noitel pishnayim. He won't get double. He won't get double. My time, let's say it's a twin. Let's say it's a twin. That'll say right. My timer, Yakir. It says Yakir that the father has to recognize him. Rachmana, well, less of the Yakir. There's no father to recognize him. The hilchas of b'cholhani lishnei, the 3 of the shayna, these 3 dinim. That we the 3 dinim of b'chor, the din of what of what was the first din? The first din of Mabreid Yeshua was Mamayit b'chelik b'chayra. The second din was what? Was Yakir. What was the third din? What? Oh, yeah, I guess the Uber, the chelik of the mother. The Amamah braid of Yosef made the Rava. The Amamah braid of Yosef made the Rava. That a ben yoim is memayit in the chelik b'chayra, and an Uber is not memayit, and a b'chor that's nightly after the father does not take pishnayim. Let's get to the final line. You're going to say, what about our Mishnah? Mishnah's mashma, guys. You give 100 to a boy and 200 to a girl. You know why? Since a person he's going to give it to the son, right? Because he has Rahmanis on, right? That's in the right. So therefore, in other words, Stam and Ub is not kaina. Stam and Ub is not kaina. Mizakal Ub is not kaina. But a father to give to a child that he was part of the conception of this child, right? Then he could give it. Guys, in the Kenyan, it seems to be that why can I be mizaka to an Uba? How can I be zoicha for something that's not there? That's not there. They felt in the Kenyan. How can you make a Kenyan? But vis-a-vis a father and a son, since a father's mind is always on a son, in this particular case, that he's the father of this child that's in the womb of the mother, he gladly goes ahead, the Leiv Shalom gives over to the child. So that would go ahead and answer up Rav Huna's big problem. Rav is answering Rav Huna's big problem. Rav Huna had a problem with our Mishnah. I don't know who learned the Mishnah. A Mishnah, no. A Nuba is not Zaycha. A Mishnah is because what? There it's a father, not somebody else. It's a father giving to a child. And therefore, if father gives to a child, it's different. And he has a Gemira Stas to be maknet to him. But Stam, a person that's maknet to an Uba is not koine. Amalei Shmuel Rav Chana Bagdata, Poik Isolate Beasara, go get 10 people together. I want to publicize this. Ve'em lecha ba'apayu, Shem Mizakal Uba koina, Mizakal Uba is koina, he, right? Hilchasa Mizakal Uba loy koina. He's taking a little bit. Shmuel Rav Chana Bagdata wanted to say it's koina. In fact, Mat Uba is not koina. Okay, let's begin the next piece. A guy said to his wife, Nechasai lebnei, the havi leminach. My nechasim should be to my children that I have from you. This guy's, everyone would say you're not koina. There's no uba there. She's not pregnant. She's not pregnant. She's not pregnant. He says, anyone that I have from you in the future, my nechasim should be to. Asa bara kashisha. Now he had an older son from another wife. Amalei. Who gavra might havila and might chop liver? What's going to be with me? What's going to be with me? So Amalei, his father said, Zil kinei kichad nibra, go be kind of like one of the children that will be born. Now what's the shaila? Is he or is he not? Is he or is he not? So Amalei, Zil kinei kichad bra. So hanach vadei leikona, the kati lesnahu, the ones that are not even a half a mina, right? There's nothing to talk about. Hi, what about this guy? Once these kids are born and they're getting the nechasim, is this guy going to get more than them or not? Hi, is this Latalia, this young man, b'makam benaya? In other words, do we say that even though they can't be koine, he still could be, and when they're born, he would get a chelek? Or do we say no, since they're not koine, he's not koine as well? So Rab Ovin, Rav Maisha, names are important. Rav Ovin, Rav Maisha, Rav Yirmiyah. We have to know Rav Ovin, Rav Yirmiyah. The Amri is chulkul tayyib b'makam benaya. He would get, even though they don't get now, he would get extra. Rav Avo, Rav Chanina bar Papi, Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, the Amri cholik l'talya b'makam less cholik l'talya b'makam benaya. You don't get. Okay, so now first group you do get, second group you don't get. Who's part of the first group? Rav Ovin and Rav Yirmiyah. Who's part of the second group? Rav Avo. So Amalei Rabbi Avo, Rav Yirmiyah said Rabbi Avo, who said you don't get. Rav Yirmiyah who said he does get. Hilchas hakavason, hilchas hakavasaycho. Is it lacha like us or like you? So Amalei Rav Yirmiyah told Rabbi Avo, pshita the hilchas hakavason that what you do get. Because we're older than you. For less hilchas hakavasaycho the dartki yasain because you're younger than us. Amalei so Rav Avo told Rav Yirmiyah. Midi b'kashishusa talia milsa. Does this depend upon age? B'tayma talia milsa depends upon svara. It depends upon what. Okay, so now b'tayma mai, and therefore, what's the reason that you're not koina? B'tayma mai, what's the reason that you're not koina? So Rabbi Vo told Rav Yirmiyah again. Rav Yirmiyah said what? You are. Rabbi Vo said you're not. Now Rav Ovin said yes. And now the game's a little confusing. Now Rabbi Vahu is telling Rav Yirmiyah to go to Rabbi Ovin, who Rabbi Vahu told the reason to. In other words, initially Rabbi Vahu argued on Ravin argued on Rabbi Vahu. Ravin said yes, he does get. Rabbi Vahu says you don't get. Yirmiyah was on the same side as Rabbi Ovin. Now he wants to know from Rabbi Vahu, how do you know that you don't get? So Ravo is telling him, go ask Rabbi Ovin, because he asked me and I told him, and he'll convince you that you don't get. That's the. So now, Zilagabe, the Rav Ovin, the Asman that like, go to Rabbi Ovin, who initially held like you, and he'll explain it to you. Amin Aleph. The Krach Abba Reisha, and he nodded his head, and he went to the base of Medrash, right? The Krach Reisha Be Midrasha. He nodded his head, and he was masking in the base of Medrash that a ben gadol is not makabel more than the other ones. That was like Rabbi Vo. He was masking. Azul Gabe. So Rabbi Yirmiyah went to Rabbi Ovin. Again, Rabbi Ovin changed his mind. Amalei. Rabbi Ovin told Rabbi Yirmiyah, Ilu Amalei. If a person would say to his friend, Kinei kichamar, be kaina like a donkey. Mi kana, would he be kaina? Obviously not. He wouldn't be kind of like a donkey. Since you tali the kinyan in the kinyan of a chamar, Just like Hamor can't be kaina, you can't be kaina, right? So too over here, just like what? The child that's not in this world yet, meaning not even conceived yet, can't be kaina. So too you can't be kaina. The itmar, someone says to his friend, kinei kichamar, be kaina like a chamar, like kana. Okay? At the chamar, you should be kaina and the chamar. Rav Nachman Amar kana mechzi, you get half, right? Rav Humunu Amar lo Amar klum, you didn't say anything. Rav Sheshus Amar kana hakol, you get everything. Okay, now we'll get into the sugya tomorrow, but the final sugya. But the bottom line is, if a person would say be kaina like chamar, it's the same way as being kaina like a child that's not even conceived yet. So obviously the child isn't conceived yet, then therefore what you can't get. Okay, but the halacha is that mezaka boba loikana. Why in our Mishnah it doesn't work? The final maskana is because a father to a child would be able to give over.